We've been doing a lot of research here at Nomad Capitalist recently on various freelancer visas around Europe. On their face, these are very attractive. You can have a nominal amount of money, rather nominal salary, and you can get access to everything that Europe has to offer, including potentially even European citizenship. But there's one caveat I think that you should be aware of, and I'm going to tell you what it is in this video. Hey, I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you'd like to learn how my team and I can personally help you create your own Nomad Capitalist strategy, you can learn more at our website, nomadcapitalist.com. And one of the things that my growing research team and I have been working on in the last few months is really trying to dig in deeper to these freelance visas in Europe. We haven't really focused on these a lot in recent years because we tend to work with folks who are 6 and 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs who can afford other strategies, and for the reason I'm going to tell you. But one thing I've noticed in the residence and citizenship industry is the stuff that you see promoted the most, the stuff that if you do internet research, you're going to find the most, is the stuff that has the most profit in it for the people who are promoting it. So you see all these citizenship by investment programs in countries like Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, etc. Malta, if we're talking about Europe, Cyprus. And I think these programs for a lot of successful people are potentially very valuable. But why are they often the only kind of options that you can find? Why is the Portugal Golden Visa with buying real estate the most common residence by investment program you'll find for living in Europe? Well, because there's the most money. These agencies want you to invest $500,000 in property in Portugal because they have a deal with a developer. They might make 50,000 euro commission. They're going to charge you higher legal fees because the process is fast. And listen, I believe in paying fees. I've learned the hard way. Don't be cheap. However, if there's an equal way to get residence in a country, I'm not opposed to that. And so, for example, in Portugal, you've got a way where you could just go and say, hey, I have some money, let me in. The process can be more laborious, there's more paperwork, and can be slower. So it's up to you to decide what your values are and which things are more important. Buying the property may be just fine, and you could hire someone like us to help you find properties that don't have a 50,000 euro commission baked into them. But if you're just starting out, these freelancer visas are very interesting. For example, in France, if you can demonstrate about 1,200 euros per year over the course of a year, you can go and you can live in France. Germany has one. Spain has one. It's a lot of the countries that you think a lot of younger people who would like to move to Europe from the US, Canada, Australia, what have you, it's the kind of visa that kind of person will be interested. The young digital nomad who's bootstrapping their business. And so I've heard from a few folks that I've worked with recently. We had one gentleman, he makes $200,000 a month, and he was thinking, hey, I'd like to go and live in Hungary because I hear they have a program. I said, that's great, but there's one problem. It's the problem with almost all of these programs, and that is tax. Now, if you're just starting out and you're making $50,000, yeah, listen, you're not going to pay that much tax in the United States. And so for you, moving to Europe and paying tax on that $50,000 in Europe, it may not be much different. You're used to paying a little bit of tax in the United States or wherever you're from. Now you're going to go somewhere new and pay tax. But there's two problems with that. Number one, if you are making that smaller amount of money, you're going to have to learn all the new paperwork. And oftentimes, taxes in Europe are more difficult, more involved than they are in countries like the United States. I know I've had European team members of mine before from countries like Austria and Germany where they were going through some of our US tax work and they were astounded by how straightforward it was compared to where they were from, where you've got to keep a receipt for every coffee you buy if you want to have a deduction. And so that's the first thing is, paying taxes necessarily may not be an issue, but doing the taxes may be an issue in some of these countries. Can you imagine doing your taxes in Spain? My head's already hurting. Now, let's talk about the 6 and 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs that we talk to here at Nomad Capitalist. Let's talk about the guy who came to me making $200,000 a month. Can you imagine if he goes to live in Hungary or Spain or any of these European countries that have really high tax rates? Suddenly now, yes, he got in on this easy freelancer visa, but if he's spending time there to qualify for becoming a tax resident, and in some of these programs, you actually are required to spend a certain amount of time there, which means they've got you in the tax net, then you're going to pay a lot of money. And so, I think a lot of us who grew up outside of Europe have that phase at one point where it's like, Europe is the place to be. It's better. And you know what? It's what I talk about, where I say every country is a brand. Every country has marketing. Are they Coca-Cola or are they RC Cola? Much like California, much like New York, the United States, Europe, especially Western Europe, has great marketing. There are so many younger folks in particular, and some older retirees as well. They love the idea of Spain. I love living in Spain. There's nothing besides Spain. But what I've learned in my years of going to over 100 countries is that you can get the benefits of Spain in so many other places around the world without having to pay through the nose in taxes and dealing with all the complication. And so what I often say about programs that are easy, whether it's setting up a company in a cheap jurisdiction. You can go and set up a Delaware company for like $300. You can set up a UK company for £300. But it's like the Roach Motel. Once you're in, you can't easily get out. You're getting into a big burden. You set up a C corporation in the United States, you're getting yourself into a big tax burden. And so the same thing could apply to residence permits. For example, you look at Portugal. If you want to spend all your year in Portugal and navigate their more difficult tax system, they have tax exemptions, they do, but it requires a lot of planning. It's not as straightforward as people make it sound. If you want to go and live full-time in Portugal and do all the tax planning and pay what it takes to do that, then you can do the cheaper option, the cheaper residence option, where you just go and say, here's my money. If you want the flexibility of spending very nominal amount of time in Portugal and still being eligible for citizenship in the future, then the golden visa with the 500,000 or the 350,000 or the 280,000 euro investment is going to make more sense. And so this is what I want you to be aware of as the nomad capitalist. I think that this area is very underserved because you've got a lot of people talking to, the younger digital nomad who's maybe not as concerned about tax, or who can afford to have some kind of leaky tax strategy where maybe they're cutting corners and they want to do that. And then you've got the people speaking to the ultra wealthy, and we work with those folks too. But you've got people just saying, hey, here, buy Malta, buy Malta, buy Malta. Okay, I'll buy Malta. There's not enough talk in the middle about, hey, I'd like to get a passport. I'd like to have a nice lifestyle, but you know what? I'm not willing to pay 40% tax for it. And so that's what I want you to be aware of. If you see some of these programs when you're looking around the internet, I want you to understand, what's the lifestyle, but also what's the financial cost. You really need to consider both when you're making a decision. For me personally, I think most of the freelancer visas don't do a very good job on that front. My suggestion would be, if you want to live in Europe, be prepared to spend a bit more. Or do what I do, find alternatives. There have been so many countries that have come of age, as it were, in the last few decades that now offer so many of the benefits without the marketing, without the higher price tag. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6- or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.